by the military-industrial complex.
I'm just a patsy.
I have a dream.
I said this once or twice, but it bears repeating. If you like your current insurance, you will keep your current insurance.
When you think about the Army and the Navy and the missions they run to protect the world, they run on SAP.
Well, you have done a really spectacular job. I guess pretty much everybody at this table is your customer, so that's not so bad.
Exactly.
So I want to congratulate
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks to you.
And we're back.
Hello.
How you guys doing?
Doing well. Just got some lunch in, so I'm feeling good.
Are you back?
Better?
Are you back in South Carolina? Ads?
Nope. Still in California.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna try to see Peter this week.
Have you had some? Oh yeah. I can show you where we got the $30 yogurts.
Oh, okay. I probably won't get one, but
Yeah,
you can show me.
I probably won't either. That was kind of a rude surprise, you know. I thought it would be stupid when I went in there, but I didn't realize it was like punch myself in the face stupid.
Yeah. There you go. Well, we got a special master update from Mr. Webb, don't we?
I think so.
It looks like those are some Georgia pines behind you, maybe though. Maybe
They
some
are.
Georgia, yeah. Georgia trees there.
I've been appointed the special master of Amazon to declare the #1 book in intelligence and espionage. Addy Adds book, Citizen Journalism and Public Intelligence. Congratulations.
Congratulations yourself, George. You're the primary author on that. So yeah, the other one, Sibel Edmonds, 95% done with the content. So it should be out by tomorrow. I anticipate if things go smoothly with the Amazon people. So that's another one on the way. Miss Edmonds' story.
And we're going through all 42, and they're all going to be rewrites. And Addy is going to be adding his stuff as well as footnotes. We have 2 other ghost authors and fact checkers and continuity people that we can't talk about because they don't want to be harassed and threatened, and with their family being Waco'd or the family being Jonestown. So, but that's the state of play here, Peter. We've got this to an industrial production scale here, and the books are getting bigger, they're getting better, and they're more well written, more well researched, more documented, etc.
Well, very, very, very good. I'm working on my own right now. I'm working on a book on reframing because I saw a need in the market. I have conversations with people all the time who just can't get their arms around the fact that the things that they see on television don't seem to be lining up with the things that they see in their real lives. And that's because, you know, we've all grown up in this kind of mind control environment that has been instituted, you know, in our education system and in the media, and it surrounds us. It's kind of like, you know, asking a fish to see water. You know, it's a hard thing to do, but that's what I've been working on. So I'm finishing up my first 2 chapters now, and I've got about 8 or 9 chapters to go. So
sweet. That's awesome, Peter. Looking forward to reading it.
I think your backup may have started up in the middle because I got a little glitch right as soon as
let's see.
Peter Struck is dialing in from Guatemala again, I think.
No, but I'll try to close as many windows as possible because, you know, it's warm right now, and when it gets warm, my computer stops behaving. So I'm just gonna close a bunch of windows here.
Got a comment here. It's all in the frame of reference, which ties into the book that Peter's writing. It also reminds me of a lesson that my physics teacher freshman year of high school taught me with regards to solving physics. Is you need a frame of reference to go from. Kind of ties into Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, where an object moving, and it's you can't really measure if you're always moving. You don't have an FOR to work from. So I think Peter's trying to reframe the FOR for people.
Yeah, Matthew Arrett was actually talking about that. He's got a 2-part series on Alexander Hamilton and Lyndon LaRouche about the American system of economy. And he started off by talking about how, we're all taught elementary geometry where you've got a line is the distance between 2 points. But then you start to realize that you're on this sphere that's spinning. And then, the spinning sphere is going around a star. And, that star is spinning. And so the idea that anything is really just a simple line that goes between 2 points is kind of an abstract way of looking at the world. We think of it as normal, but it's really abstract because everything is actually always moving all the time. And as a still photographer, I think that I realized that before anything, because still photographs are not reality. That is, when you push the button and you create something as a frozen instant in time, that's not the way that people see things. That's not the way that people experience things. So all still photographs are kind of an abstraction. So to your point, the framework that people have in the way that they perceive things is really important. And most people, and I was just writing about this in the chapter that I'm writing right now, they don't think that they have a framework. They think that whatever it is that they experience is reality. And what they don't really understand is that reality is based on all of their experiences and all of the things that they've learned and all of their assumptions about the world. And if any of those things are wrong, then their perception is wrong. And it's difficult. 74, I was just looking this up this morning, 74% of people, according to this psychological study that I was reading this morning, don't have an internal dialogue. Meaning they don't, I mean, I don't know about, I assume that you guys have internal dialogues all the time, that you're always refactoring things in your head. It's kind of mind blowing to me that 74% of people don't, but I think that that's probably part of our education and media environment that we live in, that we're constantly being bombarded by all of these messages telling us what to think. We're just reacting all the time.
Well, before we talk about the special master and all that good stuff, which I thought I would share Hillary's new coronavirus dress. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I shared a screen down there, Peter.
Okay.
You want to? It not only includes coronaviruses on the dress, but it throws in some hemorrhagic fevers.
Is that for real?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
And I will scroll down.
Is that a China dust hat?
Yeah, China dust. They're calling it China. It's a China duster.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's a China duster, they're calling it. And so it kind of brought up this, and this is my new version of Rock Island Virus, completely rewritten. And it starts out with China dust right there. Trump making the comment that, hey, we got the China dust from China. And then we talk a lot about the bioweapon simulations and so forth. And this is sort of my ex-partner task force, but her working theory about a bioagent usage in America that somebody might use to get rid of deplorables. So I'll make that go away. But there it is, everybody. I thought
do we know who designed that dress? I think
it was Wuji Aptech. I think it was the actual same people who did the 20,000 variations of the spikes in Nanjing.
Was it Alexander Wang?
Yeah, it wasn't Alexander Wang. But I mean, I just thought that would be a nice way to start the show off, with the spikes there. But the next book will be after this book. That was my way of leading in to Addy and telling him and the whole world that we'll be doing Rock Island Virus, because with the Biden speech, There's Michael Barnes, yeah. And that's not the Michael Barnes, the lawyer Michael Barnes. I think that's the producer extraordinaire Michael Barnes. I think
Producer, well, who could also qualify to be the special master.
Yeah, he's an attorney, and if the Trump team really wants a great special master, I think Michael Barnes would be great. I don't know if you can live out of state or not, but the way the process works really quickly, I'll go over it. Today and tomorrow, the Trump team is supposed to meet with the DOJ and figure out who it should be. There, of course, liberal media is going crazy with it's going to be Rudy Giuliani, it's going to be Sidney Powell. But no, I think it's going to be somebody more like, Jay Sekulow would be on the media side of the picks, and then moving toward like a Corcoran or a real trial lawyer or a real lawyer like Michael Barnes. Michael Barnes is not a constitutional lawyer per se, so I doubt he'll be named. But the idea is that they both put in their, if they can't agree, they both put in their bids, and then by this Friday, the judge will make a decision on who it will be. People say, well, this is unnecessary or whatever. Remind yourself that of this raid, Trump doesn't know what was taken. Trump has no idea up until now what was taken. General descriptions, X number of documents, but he does not have a document for document knowledge of what was taken. So a special master will give him knowledge of actually what was taken. And that's going to be super important, because if somebody's saying you're going to go to jail because of this document and you don't know what the document is, that's really hard to defend against. But if you see that it's, hey, this is the 9/11 document from Virginia Benassi to the State Department. Here's Chris Park, who may be related to Ben Park, who was actually on the...
This is 9/11/2019, just for
Correct.
for
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
Corona 911, I call it. Corona 911.
Right.
But hey, I remember that Corona 911 memo, and I declassified that. I had Kash Patel declassify that. Kash Patel is another person who may be named as the special master or put forward by the Trump team. So anyway, that's the state of play. I'll be there on Friday. Laura Logan, we have an event on Saturday in West Palm Beach.
And my co-host on the election, our election update show, Craig Pasta Jardula, will be speaking at that event. I believe the Laura Logan's event. We just did a show with Garland Favorito of Voter GA and the director of research for Look Ahead America, Ian Camacho. Both groups of which are 501c3s, nonprofit election integrity activist groups. I know Peter doesn't believe in elections, but.
Well, Favorito is the expert, as you mentioned, Addy.
Yeah, he's the man. He's got, like, one could argue the entire Peach State on his back.
Yeah,
he's done great work. He's really a thorn in Raffensperger and Kemp's side, to say the least.
No, and he's excellent. So I'm trying to understand what Michael Barnes is saying here, Peter.
If you're complaining because a federal judge appointed an unconflicted referee to review whether an FBI raid and document seizure against the former president may merit special handling. Yeah, I'm not sure I understand what
well, then yes, Hans, you are the baddie. He ends. Is that a Die Hard quote or a reference? Hans Gruber?
Addy would pick up on the boomer commentary there. That's right.
Yeah, I think it may be a comment like, if you can't see that this thing has been totally one-sided with leaks, and referee equals good. I absolutely agree with that. Molly Hemingway, a conservative writer, came out with a really good article about 7 things that you didn't know. I couldn't help but run over to the local court, the CNN court, and do a victory lap. So my content yesterday was kind of just, jubilation, but her analysis was really good. There are 7 things, and you're going to see 7 really unbelievable skirting of the law, the leaks, asking for the records, and Joe Biden involved in actually moving ahead with the DOJ inquiry. You'll see somebody tore up papers to try to make it another count of a criminal inquiry. You'll see that they asked for a subpoena and didn't wait for the subpoena to be issued, or didn't wait for the boxes to be returned. They issued the subpoena anyway. Anyway, she's got a real good article about 7 things that are any independent person would go, wow, this is really unfair treatment.
And who wrote that?
Molly Hemingway,
Okay.
not related to Ernest.
How do you know?
I think she was asked that question once before.
Have you guys seen Midnight in Paris?
Yeah.
It's a Woody Allen
Allen?
movie. I love that movie. It's a great movie.
Yeah,
I just remember Hemingway. He's hilarious.
Mariel Hemingway?
No.
They go
Ernest
back.
Hemingway's in the movie, or he's played by, I don't know the actor's name, but it's a great movie. You got to check it out.
Well, Hemingway stayed up late drinking a lot.
Yeah, I guess he was a boxer too. Very belligerent man.
Yes, he was, and he stayed up after midnight. I always tell my kids nothing good happens after 10 p.m. and definitely nothing good happens after midnight. So be in bed by then. But Hemingway, that's when he just is getting started in Paris and all the other places he was. But I think he got an Oscar for that, didn't he? Didn't Woody Allen get an Oscar for that? Midnight
He might have done so. Yeah, it's really fun movie to watch. Good music, and yeah, like I said, I think Hemingway is probably my favorite character in there. I think Owen Wilson asked him. He's like, I just want to see if you'll like my writing. He's like, I won't like your writing. If it's bad, I'll hate it, and if it's good, I'll hate it because I'll be jealous and want to do better.
Yeah, well, that was kind of the Hemingway character, but he wrote a lot of good stuff, so we'll give him a pass here. But I think Michael Barnes hit the nail on the head here. This court really needs some objectivity. The judge played it down the middle of the fairway. It really didn't go either way, and said, hey, a second set of eyes here from what this is like dossier 2. There's been more leaks in this than the impeachments. There's been more leaks in this than the dossier. So it's time to stop this and get back on track. But the key smoking gun that she pointed out today was Biden was maybe involved in 2 different things. One, the subpoenaing, and 2, the raid, the approval of the raid. Now, that could be just Peter Strzok, sweeping it under his nose and saying, sign this. And he goes, oh, sure, But that's the new juice today is Molly Hemingway's article.
And do you know what the outlet is?
It looks like the Federalist. She's the editor-in-chief of the Federalist, according to Mr. Barnes.
Yeah. Oh, I see 7 insane things I just learned about how U.S. elections are rigged. Oh, that's Joy Pullman.
No, this was today, September 6th, Tuesday.
Okay.
Unless I've got the wrong person here. I don't think so. Are you looking at the article, Addy?
No, I can pull it up, though. Give me a second. And that was recently released, right, George?
Yeah, today, I think.
Nice.
I'd done a little video of how easily this would be to color and prejudice the FBI agents. And Peter Strzok's going back and forth about this now, too, in the filter team. He's getting very involved. But if you just took 90 folders and just did a minority report on the carpet of all the folders, that's a scene where Tom Cruise puts all these papers on a floor to try to understand what's going on with the new society. If you did a minority report on the carpet and just told the FBI guys, put those, the files that are in folders you can't look at, okay? If you took a picture of that, it would look like, because you just see the cover sheets, it would look like, wow, you've got a whole bunch of classified information that's been hidden here, secret information over here, top secret information. And that's exactly what happened. They were empty folders, 90 of them. So again, doesn't look good.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Hillary. She was mentioning her emails today on Twitter. I don't know if you guys saw that.
She was reminding people of her emails. The emails that got wiped that we've never seen, that Peter Strzok collected copies of on October 5th, 2015 from Data Corporation, and the New York Police Department also has copies of them on Anthony Weiner's laptop. That Hillary Clinton email?
Yes, precisely. Yes, precisely. Yeah, she was, I think, asserting that she never had any classified emails, if I recall correctly.
Well, we wouldn't know because supposedly nobody ever found them, except they did. And then they didn't tell us that they did. Well, actually,
they're
James
in Quantico.
James Comey made a speech, right? James Comey made a speech before the election, and he said that they found some things. okay, let's rewind here. Okay, it's all coming back to me. It's like, woo, play the harp music, right? No, James Comey said that they looked at her emails and that there were classified documents on her emails and that no reasonable prosecutor would file charges for that. I think that was more or less the statement that was made. So she's now tweeting out that she didn't have any classified documents in her email. Like somebody,
Yeah, let me pull it up.
Somebody should A/B that with James Comey. You know.
Yeah, some aspiring film student has a Grammy or an Emmy there in their future,
or at least a meme. At least a meme.
At least a meme,
know?
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the Emmys don't do real narratives, so I guess that would be out. But yeah,
Here,
I think. Go ahead.
Pull it up here. I was just gonna say, yeah, I'm pulling up the tweet here. Let me orate it, and then I'll verify here. She said, "I can't believe we're still talking about this, but my emails. As Trump's problems continue to mount, the right is trying to make this about me again. There's even a Clinton standard. The fact is that I had 0 emails that were classified. Comey admitted he was wrong after he claimed I had classified emails. Trump's own State Department, under 2 different secretaries, found I had no classified emails. That's right, 0, 0 in all caps. By contrast, Trump has hundreds of documents, clearly marked classified, and the investigation just started. I'm tired of talking about this.
How does she know that?
She's lying. I'm tired of talking about this than anyone. I think she meant more than anyone. Well, here we are. If you're interested in the facts, you can read more here at thenationalmemo.com. How many of her emails were classified? Actually, 0. Tim Young says, don't wait for this complete lie to be fact-checked. Tim Young, by the way, stole my banner idea and refuses to follow me back, despite the fact he follows nearly 30,000 people. I know he knows who I am, but that's okay. Let me pull it up.
I think you should start an alternate account called Grumpy Addy Adds.
I would have some fun on that.
And
one.
I will never, ever be happy about whatever remediation you do. No. Let's just keep a few bridges before we, that's good. The email thing is quite funny because, she had stuff destroyed at her house too. And there was the email server at her house supposedly.
And then there was the fire.
The fire.
There was the fire.
Oh, there's always a fire or a flood, isn't there?
That's why they didn't find him. I mean, we destroyed every device that had him. Remember the Blackberries and the hammer? I don't know if you remember that story, the 7 hammers.
If I had a hammer.
Yeah, we had a good time with that.
Right.
So it's funny because I think people were ignoring her. I really haven't seen anybody attack Hillary Clinton for her emails.
Very out of the blue, it seeed to me.
I think she just wanted to be relevant, and she's trying to make it about her, and it's not. We're just
if Streisand effect is a way to get attention, and Andy Warhol would probably tell you that it is, then she's doing a great job because we're all talking about her right now, and otherwise, I don't think that we would have probably even mentioned her name the whole show.
I have to say the Corona dress was it for me. Task Force never told me Hillary would come out with the Corona spike dress. I got to say, she never said that. But if she did, she would have said, told you. If there was one person she thought would be responsible for a Peter Strzok type of bio lockdown on America, it would be Hillary Clinton. And ever since Hillary was in the White House in 95, 96, and he was in there as a young 25, 26-year-old, they glommed onto each other. The FBI counterintelligence crew, she was protected from then on through her Senate race, even before she ever ran for president, and then all through the presidency, and then still targeting Trump. If you look at his tweets, he went after Trump, said he had a Russian passport. That's not true. He said to Kash Patel, you're going to be put behind bars and you better need a effing good lawyer. Some pretty, for a guy at Georgetown who's only, dropping cash off the CIA figures, that's pretty strong language.
Provocative. And
Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Peter, Paul, and nothing, Twitter doesn't wag their finger at them.
I didn't hear that, Peter.
I said Twitter doesn't wag their finger at them. Like they can pretty much say what they want with impunity. So
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to say that there is going to be this big meeting in West Palm Beach. If somebody wants to sponsor Addy to fly down from South Carolina, we'd love to
I'm in
have.
California, actually.
when you
But I
get
do want to. I want to give some thanks to a couple folks. Just if that's okay. Someone, Terry, Mr. Walters, and Diane, for their contributions on Buy Me a Coffee. I really appreciate it, guys. So I'm guessing most, if not all, of those people are in the viewership for this show. So I just want to thank folks for that.
yeah, and likewise, anybody who's given us coffee in the last, actually anybody who's ever given us coffee.
Yeah, yeah. I
Thank
want to
you.
get better about thanking people in shouting them out. I know some of them don't like it, but so, I think it's good to just.
Well,
put
one
that
of the
energy
nice
out there.
one of the nice things about Buy Me a Coffee is sometimes when people say nice things, you can retweet them, which I find
nice.
I find
Okay.
convenient. Yeah, I like that.
Cool. And I have heard zero word of censorship from them. Lest us not forget, George lost a very handsome Patreon account, which is criminal on many levels. So appreciate the support, folks. We do need it.
Yep.
Well, I was just wondering if you would be back by Friday to the East Coast. That it would only be from South Carolina down to West Palm Beach. So, but we don't know. So anyway, but I would love to meet your guy when I'm there, and then that'll go over to.
He knows who you are.
Oh,
Yeah.
great! Yeah, well,
Yeah.
tell him I'm the tall guy, and I'll meet him there.
It's kind
I
of
do-
hard to hide, George.
I think this is an important thing. I think it's important that we don't have the reaction they want us to. They want us to say, "Oh, we hate Hillary." They want us to say something aggressive, like Peter Strzok is using this very inflammatory language, the F bombs and stuff. If we just go, no, here's chapter and verse of what you're doing wrong. For example, here you go, Peter. Peter Strzok. I'll respond to you about your effing comment to Kash Patel, and I'll direct you to what the judge wrote in the opinion about the Supreme Court ruling on executive privilege, saying a outgoing president cannot be targeted by an incoming president. And that executive privilege may have a halo of a couple of years for precisely this reason, to prevent targeting. And if it can be shown that Biden's hands and fingers and fingerprints are on this subpoena and on this raid, then it very much looks politically charged. So Peter Strzok, here's the non-angry response that you didn't want. Here's the chapter and verse that's going to make you look ridiculous as a law professor over there at Georgetown. It's going to make me look darn good. And stop tweeting at me using the F-bombs.
He's a professor?
Yes, he's a professor at Georgetown. Yeah.
My goodness. These people just...
Professor is the new term for cutout.
Yeah, it's just a revolving door of bureaucrat to academic. Like, they just get whatever position they want. I'm sure later he's going to work in the financial sector as like some executive. But Georgetown is spook university to the max. That's where Kiriakou got recruited.
Yeah.
I thought American University is more spooky. I mean, I'm sure Georgetown is spooky, but I thought American
George might know
University,
this. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty spooky
well,
too.
It is pretty spooky. I think if you go, well, for instance, there's this, we now have the Vince Foster torn up memo in this Trump case. If you don't remember, Vince Foster tore his suicide note up into 200 pieces.
And then he wrapped himself in a carpet and like rolled down the street like to the park.
Well, and then he performed.
And Jack Ruby's business card was found in the carpet.
But what was even better was, even though he was declared dead, he made magicians can take the torn up thing and make it all one paper again. But when it's your suicide note and you've been dead for a day, and then you make it all turn as to one paper. And the president of American University, I can't remember her name, Burwell, I think. She was the one who dumpster dove for Hillary Clinton into the White House dumpster and found magically that full Vince Foster thing. Same thing in this case. You think that they would have said, hey, that trope can't, that really looked bad with Vince Foster.
Sylvia Matthews Burwell. Very interesting motto: for God and country. Pretty interesting motto for a
They're
university.
convinced everything they do over there is for God country. I mean,
Oh, they're Methodists. I didn't know that.
600 or how many? I'm sorry, 68 or 69 journalists, Ukrainian journalists who wore exciting underwear. 68 exciting journalists having parties where they were ice sculptures with the champagne running down, and having an embedded DoD spokesman run those parties with Butina.
Okay, this is where people who haven't been watching you for years, they get totally lost.
Yeah. So just
Well, okay,
we're like 4 years old. Here.
I'm just going to pretend to be the stupid person here.
Well, okay. I'm just saying that if you don't remember the Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump race of 2016, this person who we're talking about, who discovered the Vince Foster letter and magically made it reappear, was also the president of American University, and they held a series of meetings with Nellie and Bruce Orr, and a guy named Goldgeier, which is interesting.
Ham radio operator Nellie Orr.
I love how you know that, Peter. That's amazing.
Yeah.
She's still the president, by the way, according to Wiki. So.
Yeah. So anyway, there was a group of students, and none other than the one that was so close to Flynn. She was a Secretary of State. All of a sudden, it's not the black gal was Secretary of State, not.
You're not talking about Condoleezza, are you?
The one after Condoleezza.
Rice.
Susan
Rice.
Susan Rice had
Susan Rice. Yeah.
Susan Rice had an office with them, a kind of a shared command center office, network operations center, election operations center. Right before the election is interesting. She got that posting right there. She was out there with Butina and a guy from ODNI, a guy named Martin, and they were running 68 or 69, depending on your favorite number, in journalists, students from American University into the Trump campaign for these parties. They were having big parties, and there was a guy named J.D. Gordon who dated Butina supposedly on down the stretch. You always want to date a Russian spy right down the stretch.
Didn't Mr. like Overstock.com, didn't he?
Well, Patrick Byrne happened.
Patrick Byrne, yeah.
Patrick Byrne happened later. He's going to be there, I think, Saturday too.
Yeah, he is. Yep.
But Peter Strzok, I'm sorry, but he pimped that poor girl, Butina, out something terrible. Because you remember John D. Rockefeller IV was also with her. He was George O'Neill is his fake name. Was in court for that trial. But she was also with the sheriff, the black sheriff guy in Milwaukee. I can't remember his name, but she was also out with the two guys from the Zion Bank and the Federal Reserve and the Treasury out in Utah, Sheets and Fisher. I mean, Peter Strzok had her running left and right. They would meet at this bistro called Bistro B, B-I-S in French, right? And that was their haunt where they met. And she was like, "Hey, I have no money, and I'll do what you want." And she was sort of the secretary or the translator for the Russian ambassador Kislyak, who Mike Flynn ends up texting from Mar-a-Lago. So it's the 2016 election history. If Hillary's going to bring it back for her, I'm going to bring it back for Strzok. I'm going to bring it back into Omeletville for Strzok.
Someone said that Rice's father works at Maxwell Gates Bank in Seattle. I don't know if we
did not know that.
Okay.
That,
okay. Yeah. Is that Ghislaine Maxwell and Bill Gates Bank?
I don't know. I've never heard of that.
I don't know what that is.
That would have to be like BCCI or HSBC or something, right? It would be interesting to see what the actual bank is.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
Kate is saying Matt and Yen Pottinger have connections to the University of Texas, ? I think that's what that means. And it's interesting. Yen Pottinger has the only HIV test. I don't know if it's a PCR test or an antibody test. Somebody should find that out. But how does somebody who's this young, 30 something, worth $13 million, how is she the first person who comes up with the HIV test?
I'm going to call you out on that.
How old is she?
I'm going to call you out on the $13 million things.
Okay.
because those things are notorious. Like you put your own name in, like try putting your own name in and seeing what the number is that comes back, because often it comes back with some kind of like ridiculous number. So it's like Google. If you search for something on Google and it says 600 million results, if you keep clicking the numbers on the bottom, by the time you get to about 42, all of the results are done. So just when I saw you screenshotted that, I thought, you gotta be careful with that one.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But there is a story about Matt Pottinger following in his dad's footsteps and saying how he didn't do any time as an intern on Capitol Hill, and as a 15-year-old had a hedge fund on Wall Street in the 80s.
Well,
right?
yeah, but okay.
Right. That's young to have a hedge fund.
Right. And so if she's married to him, then that number could make sense. So
okay, check this out, guys. Just quick aside here. Mary Maxwell Gates is the mother of Bill Gates. She is the first woman to serve on the board of directors for Washington's first interstate bank, upon which Emmett J. Rice, father of one Susan Rice, also served. He was also a member of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors and, big time banker.
This is why I appended the CIA rubric of MICE with F.
I think you're right, Peter. I think you coined that. I think it's the most important one is family,
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, somebody's talking about Pinehurst with Strzok, and yes, I went and visited AFGRO. Not Afro for Africa, but AFGRO. Peter Strzok Sr. was helping people grow food. Boy, if that doesn't say nanoparticle to you, I don't know what does.
Growing food
in Africa. Yeah.
Isn't that food like opium food or like
or food that you eat that ends up filling up your vital organs with nanoparticles so you can be tracked like a terrorist, or smoke that does that same thing, or toxic clouds that do that same thing.
Let's do a sidebar and talk about that for a second too, because other friends of ours who have shows talk about nanoferritin and I can't remember what the other nano or metals are, but your contention has been for a long time that we're not talking about something that's creating sentient beings inside of people. We're talking about a way to track and trace them, basically, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about the difference between like a toy dog and a dog. They're two different things. One's artificial and one's real. A nanoparticle pseudovirus is fake. It doesn't replicate. Okay. But again, going back to task force in Fort Belvoir, all these things, because they don't want it to spread, but they want to create an emergency. They don't want to set the town on fire, but they do want to create an emergency for a live exercise. They spread the nanoparticle. Ralph Barrick did the nanoparticle in 2008, the spike. So if you sprayed this, if you had Klarilova and Bogacheva, our two favorite toxic cloud preparers, if they created a toxic cloud over New Orleans and you were at a barbecue, you would breathe it in and you would get stuff in your lungs and you would raise an infection, a flu type symptoms like you had COVID, let's just say. They were running around all around 2014 and 2016 creating toxic clouds. So that's what I'm saying is if this was done in Wuhan, I believe it was, I've never said it was always live virus. The first shoe to drop could have been the nanoparticle because they wanted to get the State Department in there. Once the State Department's in there, then they can see what kind of blood and what kind of swabbing and blood, right? And now
schwabbing in blood.
Schwabbing, I think of the technical terms called schwabbing. Yeah. But this could generate a fake 911 to Trump. And because Matt Pottinger knows it's a live exercise, he keeps it from Trump, maybe. But that gets our State Department people in there so we can do a limited live exercise with an attenuated virus. Because why do you want the attenuated virus? You want to see how this stuff spreads, potentially. You want to approve remdesivir, which you've been trying to do for a decade and got no money for it. Wuhan Institute of Virology took over the remdesivir approval, and you also want to have a reason for an impending event or an entity of excitement to do mRNA vaccines. So you got a lot of deep state military people with a lot of money invested in these things. If only we had an emergency. What better emergency would it be than to throw this in Trump's lap? So technically you could say, well, I wasn't infected in September because it was a nanoparticle. I wasn't infected with coronavirus. I was infected with a nanoparticle. So that's a dance I think these guys are playing right now.
Order out of chaos. The chaos ladder. Ralph Barrick, he did a PowerPoint on this as it pertained to COVID. Quite amazing.
Do you have the PowerPoint?
Someone in the audience does. I tweeted it. And
okay.
so it'll take me a bit to look it up, because I tweeted it last year.
I might be able to get you some time here. So George, just for people who think that you're taking disconnected things and you're putting them together, you were talking earlier about two alleged women, because we don't actually even know who Krylova and Bogacheva are, right? They were two people that were reported in the news that we were never able to substantiate that they were actually real people. It's kind of like the Virginia Benassi thing, right? It's like we could never find a picture, we could never find an address, we could never find any kind of mention on any kind of social media or using any kind of search engine to find them. And when we did, actually I take that back, because when we did find things that looked like social media, they always had stock photographs, and we used image recognition in order to make sure that the photos that we were looking at, we used I think Google image search, and we did image searches on all of the pictures of Krylova and Bogacheva, and they were all stock photos. So these people had social media profiles. The pictures of them weren't them. Okay, this is classic signature reduction, right? And so the reason that you were talking about that is because those people supposedly were involved in the release of toxic clouds in different parts of America, and there was FBI warrants for them. Is that correct?
Well, they were convicted in absentia for the 2000. Yeah,
right. They convicted two imaginary people. All right,
and 10 other people that worked at this place on 55 Sabushkina in Leningrad. So if people want the street address, and I think Anthony Chen wrote the article, or Tony Chen. Anyway, so whether or not that's what happened in Wuhan, you could use these two things together. Why would you use a fake nanoparticle and have that operation be run by UNC, and then later have a real virus when it gets around to coming to America? And the reason is in a battlefield situation, I really don't want to give a soldier something that could replicate in his body and kill him or her. I want to just give him the spike so he gets the antibodies and he gets better. Or I want to give him this the pseudovirus before battle, so he has the antibodies before battle.
It's the shield in the sword and shield.
Yes. So if you wanted to make sure that everybody in your test area, all your police, all your fire, all the people doing the swabbing, all the people taking blood draws and so forth. Schwabbing. Yeah. The best thing to do would be to spread first, inoculate everyone first, right, with the nanoparticle, with the pseudovirus. Then have an attenuated release, and some people are going to die because they're old and they have ARDS or whatever, but then you'll be able to create this social map, and then you'll be able to have your remdesivir people, the 6,000 blood draws from the 5 different hospitals, so you'll be able to get a quick fast track approval for remdesivir. You'll also have your 300,000 Schwabs from the Tianhe airport and the other major airports where you're collecting the Schwabs. We know that that's what happened at the Tianhe airport, including State Department people were Schwabbed, not at this end, at the other end. So, and we know they were flown into Maryland. So under a top secret, cloud. So again, if the folks who want to poke holes or whatever want to call Marty Hogan and say, well, what were the results? Or they want to call Michael Callahan and say, what were the results of the 6,000 blood samples? Or they want to call and say, hey, Matt Pottinger, why don't you release all the things that David Asher classified?
Has Addy called him yet? Because like Addy is really good at like picking up the phone and just calling people.
I almost did it yesterday with this. Anyways, somebody came after me again on the internet, but I did find that it's not the entire presentation, but it's an excerpt from it. I shared it on the screen if you want to pull it up here.
Let's do it,
Peter.
There we go. And then Michael Barnes asked, he said, the WHO group of people don't have images appearing in public, Krylova and Bogacheva. So
Rod Rosenstein came out with an indictment in 2014 of the Russians interfering in elections to sort of pre-deliver that meme in people's heads. But he didn't announce it until 2016, right when Trump was meeting the Queen, I think. And so this was the idea that, hey, the Russians are baddies. They're working with Trump.
Yeah. So, yeah, the idea here is just a chaos ladder here with political, financial, personnel gain, all of which we saw in 2020. If you remember how crazy the stock market was, even just investing in Amazon made people a lot of money. But look at this: miracle cures, conspiracy theories, misleading stories, all of which we also saw as well. So, and I do believe this was Barrick's presentation. I want to find the whole thing though. So
yeah, I'd love to know what the context is in that. Kate Dirksen has a couple of questions. This one, she said, are Benjamin Park and Christopher Park, State Department Director of Biological Policy, who shut down the lab leaks, related? That sounds like a Dave Underdown adventure.
Well, I know Chris Park because there was a State Department memo that said, even though everybody got sick at the State Department, remember the Cuban embassy and so forth, don't dig into the origins of coronavirus. So Chris Park was the guy who issued the gag order to the State Department. We have that. So Bobby Kennedy Jr. is going to be writing a book on November the 15th. I'm glad he didn't make it November 22nd. And he's going to be coming out with the cover-up in Wuhan. Yeah, the cover-up in Wuhan. And he's going to be mentioning Chris Park. And hopefully he mentions Virginia Benassi as well. I just found an old video where I said there was 64 different connections to NATO in September, October, and November in 2019 in Wuhan. And I can name about 30 of them off the top of my head right now. 64, I didn't think we got that high, that list. It sounds like classified folders now.
Indeed. Kate also said, George Eliasson is requesting photos and or videos of Ukrainians at the Capitol on January 6th. It would be good to collaborate with him on this. It's like, I can't really tell if anybody in my picture is a Ukrainian. I don't know how you do that, but
I'll tell you what I saw right in front of the Labor AFL-CIO building, which fronts, it's right across the street from the Capitol. I saw a big bus come in, big white bus. All these guys get off of it. They weren't wearing orange hats. They all walked across the street to the grassy knoll toward where we had our first film thing, Peter.
Yeah.
Right. They all took a huge drag off of the cigarette almost simultaneously. All of them had one big last hit on the cigarette. Everybody threw the cigarettes down when one guy said, throw them down. Everybody went like that with an orange hat. And then they merged themselves into Joe Biggs's group. This guy named Brian Ball had video of me, and he was complaining that, George, you're brushing shoulders. You're brushing shoulders with Joe Biggs. I thought you said you saw Joe Biggs 2 years before with the Proud Boys. Why didn't you say hi? Yeah. When a whole bunch of Ukrainians are like in a half trot coming at you with the Proud Boy goofballs that they got to come to the thing. Yeah, I'm going to pick out one guy, and plus he had grown a beard and he'd gained about 30 pounds. And I'm supposed to pick one guy out of that.
I think
we all look like Kenny from South Park that day.
Yeah.
It was very cold.
It was very cold. Yeah.
We were actually talking about the 6 on my previous election show, but I think revisiting January 6th footage is worth a shot. I don't know if you guys saw what Ford found the other day. Ford Fisher, he this was a couple weeks ago now. He found Capitol Police Lieutenant Tariq Khalid Johnson wearing a MAGA hat, shouting into a bullhorn, and was seen entering with officers, tailed by several Oath Keepers. Footage by YouTuber Rico Lastarza shows Johnson wearing the cap and asking for Oath Keepers' help moments earlier. In Ford's subsequent shot, Capitol Police Lieutenant Johnson can be seen the mag cap and yelling into a bullhorn while leading officers out of the building, followed by protesters. Since then, Star's footage went viral. Lieutenant Johnson was suspended, claimed that he wore the MAGA hat to, quote, win the trust of the protesters and help extract officers who were trapped.
Yeah, so all three of us were there, and this is the number one reason I say get out of your mother's basement, because the first question they're going to ask you in court was, were you there? And if it's not, your testimony straight out the door with hearsay evidence. Okay, so we were all there. I was at the door. Addy was at the door, and we saw what was happening. And they were saying to people that weren't going in. Everyone was stopping at the door. There was a few that kind of got, bum rushed in. Not many. They were taking pictures of various statues and so forth. But they were saying there's somebody hurt inside. You need to come help. We need to help come. I don't know if this is Ashley Babbitt had been shot yet or not, but they were being enticed under false pretenses to come in. This is why Michael Barnes or anyone, any lawyer should come forward and appeal to the equity powers of the court. The equity powers of the court just were used by Trump. This is the old Farmer Jones law, first lesson to me about fundamental rights. If the government's going to impinge on your fundamental rights, and you want to appeal to the equity court for stopping what they're doing, right? Like stopping holding people habeas corpus in this jail in DC, right? You have to say, I'm appealing to the power of the equity courts. There's no remedy at law and it's irreparable harm. And that gets him out. That springs him out of jail. Trump just used that. His lawyers just used that and won. And the equity courts, the courts are going more toward equity. Supreme Court's hearing more and more equity cases. This is for everything that doesn't come under the case law, right? When something's obviously needs to be stopped, like some madman is just busting windows, or whatever, it needs to be stopped, like Antifa.
Or the guy with the chair. There was like I don't know, he just conjured up a chair.
Michael Barnes asked the question, what other group of employees have no facial images on social media? This guy with the red hat and the earpiece, who was part of a team, the guy behind him, the crazy guy on the truck behind him, who were standing on top of a black vehicle. And he's talking to a guy in the red check shirt who are discussing what they're going to do with the guy who's taking pictures of them up on the stairs. Their pictures aren't showing up in any databases that we find. I have one lead, one guy who claims that he can get the information, who may be listening right now, tells me that the guy in the red hat's name is Mike, and I think I know the county that he lives in. But until I can confirm that, I'm not gonna give up anything. But he doesn't show up in any databases.
Well, intelligence agents usually don't.
That's right, because the signature reduction people take them out of those databases.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the other thing, speaking of informants, is like this Benjamin Park guy who I stood next to in line. I didn't realize he was the lawyer, but they use them in these entrapment cases, the lure cases, as Peter Strzok calls them. And I found out Benjamin Park was in a lot of anti-terrorism cases, used as a go-between or an intermediary for secrets or buying some critical component like a nuclear trigger or something like that. And he's been in a lot of cases. So all of a sudden, this guy who's been on the FBI counterintelligence team, all of a sudden he becomes a filter expert on classifications of classified documents. No, it sounds like he's a guy that Peter Strzok used as an informant, and now we've made him instantly a filter team guy. This is where a good attorney could go in and just rip them to shreds by asking the right questions. And he's already opened the door. Once you open the door and testify in a case, you cannot close the door again. So he's fair game for the special master. So this is the kind of thing that I have been encouraging and Farmer Jones. Go on the offensive. Misrepresentation, misconduct, right? We don't want to put Hillary in jail. I want to put Strzok in jail. I want to put Brat in jail. I want to put Park in jail.
I want to put everyone in jail. No, actually,
Right.
I don't. I just want to send them all home. It's like,
I do too.
okay, I don't want to send anyone to jail. I want to tell them, you don't have authority over me anymore. Go away. That's really what I want.
A question from Wilkins. It was actually Ford Fisher's Twitter. I got that from. I just retweeted it, so it should be at the top of my Twitter feed. One Addy Adds, in case anybody wants to check it out. It's pretty good thread. 4 or 5 tweets there.
Please turn on captions and transcript for this and other videos. I believe I've got them turned on by default. I'll go check. But
well, one thing that really helps is putting these comments up, Peter, because later when you go back, it's a real nice like bookmark, to go through the video and
a visual bookmark.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thermopter says equity is an abused word. Each side is trying to co-opt. Yeah, I would agree with that, but it worked this time. And I do think there are some things that are like libel and defamation. CNN now, 2.5 years in with me, I want to say take it down, right? But I have no estoppel, I have no way of stopping them until the court case runs out and all my money runs out. So that's the name of these games, is they just run the guy out of money, and the case goes away.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm just going to put one more up here because why not? Wait a second. Why can't I get it to show? Cancel. Never mind. Okay, so because Addy, do you have something you want to show?
Oh, I was just showing that Ford thing, but I canceled out of it. I can pull it up again if you want though.
Sorry, I'll pull it out. Sorry.
What's the
you
nature?
looking at my message?
What's the nature of it?
So he re-looked at as January 6th footage, and he found this Capitol Police lieutenant wearing a MAGA hat and like leading the protesters in. Yeah, I just pulled it up there if you wanna bring it on screen there.
Yeah, it's interesting because Carrie and I have been going through the January 6th stuff. We found video. Carrie found video. I found video. Carrie found video that we hadn't looked at. Like we were just like in a daze or something, and we hadn't looked at it, and we.
Yep, there it is. Yeah, so got him on camera there, and someone else got him on camera too. That YouTuber that he mentioned. Oh, and it looks like we got the aforementioned chaos ladder by Barrick is found in a video by the Gillings School of Public Health called The Next Pandemic, year 2018.
And where are you reading that from?
That's from
Wild Tangent.
Yeah, in the comments.
All right.
Yeah, that sounds pretty prophetic. And I think the reason why Ralph Barrick gets away with saying I didn't spread any virus is because he didn't. He spread a pseudovirus. And when I tell Donnie on the phone, hey, there's 5 purchase orders going back and forth between Charlotte and the Wuhan Institute, so it sounds like a joint venture to me. Remember that Barrick says he worked with her for 20 years, or at least 10, but he's had this program for 20 years for the myocarditis thing. 20 years, almost 30, I think. So we know he was working on the pseudovirus, the toy dog, not the real one. And Zhengli, I think her job was to make this happen in real life, and it never really did happen in real life. Maybe that's what happened with China dust. It's like they could never get this thing to actually infect a human from the bats. That was the plan. And she tried she had 20,000 different combinations. The GenBank database is 40,000 different combinations. They had all these supercomputers up in Wuxi at Wuxi AppTech trying to come up with something that would infect a human, and nothing would. So they tried the furin cleavage. They tried everything.
So are you saying the bat virus that they found in COVID-19 didn't come from her lab?
I'm saying she had hamburger helper. The closest she got to something that infect a human is called HK1. Okay. But it does not infect humans. And that's why I believe she went to Africa to an Ebola conference in South Africa right before the election. And she met the head of Fort Detrick, Sina Bavari. They met in Seychelles, which is a heck of a thing because he had just had his laboratory shut down for lab leaks.
You know, I know Seychelles because Christy Brinkley famously did Sports Illustrated on Seychelles, which was the best Sports Illustrated bikini issue ever. Seychelles is in the middle of nowhere. Like, it is really far away from. I think the closest thing to Seychelles is like 1,000 miles away. It's,
Madagascar.
Right. It's in the middle of nowhere.
Peter, I mean, it's tough work if you
And
can
didn't
get
Eric
it.
and didn't Eric Prince have some kind of famous meeting in Seychelles too? Like,
Yeah, Eric Prince has a big famous meeting in Seychelles as well, and I'm trying to remember who he met there. But it seems
Probably
to be a favorite
warlord.
There's an air base there. I believe it's a British air base. There's also one.
I think it's French.
Oh, it's French. Okay,
French, yeah.
But the reason why they choose it is because it's so remote. There's
Why
another.
the Americans didn't kick him out?
Well, you have to. Okay, so we're doing this book, right?
That woman is in the book, by the way, Miss Zhang Li. She's in Citizen Journal. So
yeah. We go to these places. We're interviewing Sibel Edmonds, right? And I was in Austin, and the citizen journalist in Austin said, "You won't believe all the Iranian scientists here at the university, not Austin, Tallahassee, at the University of Florida State. You won't believe all the PhDs that are here at Florida State." And so we left where we ate. She took me over to this Wonder Burger. I'd never heard of Wonder Burger before, and it was a huge.
Oh,
they finally,
sorry,
George.
I clicked the wrong button. Sorry.
George Webb burgers have come to Florida, and because it's a gigantic W, right? I thought now finally they've given me the credit I deserve. Q's out. They finally realized it's the W. No, it wasn't. It was Wonder Burger. And this person says, just wait. There'll be 2 scientists coming in here because there's some kind of lab there. And the next 2 people, I thought it was a setup, were Iranian PhD scientists. And I asked them, what do you do? Oh, I do neuronal developmental disorders. The other one said, I'm biology. That's why you get out of your mother's basement and go to these universities and talk.
And you go to Wonder Burger.
And you go to
or you go to George Webb in Wisconsin. I don't know if you've ever been there, George.
I've never been, but that's what I thought. I thought it was a George Webb that had moved down because I think they had financial trouble.
There's a burger joint based in Wisconsin called George Webb.
Right, and I saw that, and my first thought was they're doing signature reduction on the reporter George Webb. They started a whole hamburger chain just to push him down in the search results.
Yeah, right.
I struck back, did I not?
How do you spell struck back?
STRZ, okay, baby.
Okay.
Because those strokes are okay, right? I came back with the Impossible Burger. Why did I come back with the Impossible Burger?
You and Michael Barnes. He eats those things too. He left, but he eats those things too.
Nobody believed me that they made heme from yeast. And I said this was a Navy program, a blood builder program, the Special Warfare Center in San Diego. It was a big program with Amgen. They had a thing called epoetin. This is the stuff Lance Armstrong was doping for the bike races to go up the Alps. I think Lamond, may have had some help too before him. And this is the juice, literally, right? And now the juice is in the burger. And unless I come back at George Webb, and I don't want my signature reduced, I'm coming back at George Webb in Wisconsin with my own Impossible Burger. Boom.
I'm gonna join you for that dinner there, George.
Done.
I've never been, actually. I've never been there. Peter brings it up.
Yeah, they're trying to reduce my signature of the Impossible Burger. They want to bury this Navy SEALs story. Navy SEAls have to swim a long way underneath the water to the enemy ship and put the bomb on the ship and then swim back. You can't just get there and say, "Hey, I'm done. Hit the bomb." You got to get back. So you need some extra blood, and this was developed at Amgen and a couple of other Salk Institute, etc. And we're working on this. and now it's appeared in consumer food. And I'm telling you, have you made a heme? Have you ever made a heme in yeast?
George, I'm surprised you don't have any George Webb wear.
We got to get an eye, but then instead of a burger,
here's a hat.
yeah.
Just buy the hat. Just buy the hat. I don't want to make a dime. I want this place to live.
Nobody on this channel makes any money if you buy this stuff, but that's okay.
I know.
I think you should get it anyway. Look, they have George Webb Premium Blend coffee.
I'm telling you, folks, buy us a coffee. Don't buy this coffee.
Yeah, right.
Buy us a coffee. But I love the shirt. Look at that George Webb shirt.
I burger George Webb.
You got to get an eye, Corona, Crown, George Webb, or something like that.
Yeah, or cross it through.
Yeah.
These are great. These are great.
Anyway, yes, but yeah, you can spend your money there, or you can spend your money here, because we're doing this for you.
We need it more than the restaurant does. I can assure you that.
So I'm not sure of the university. I think it might be the University of Wisconsin, but Sarah Struck. Okay, there's only 100 Strucks in America. Mark Kulak taught us that. Yes, and Kate mentions that there's 4 catcher's mitts basically for oxygen on the heme, 4 porphyrin rings they're called. Okay, malformed heme is what you do to the enemy. If you can make good heme for our guys and our super soldiers, you can also make bad heme. You can introduce it into the food supply, into whatever they're eating for animals, right? Like you could introduce it into goats that also produce cashmere, right? We were looking at a nanoparticle company that was using cashmere for their nanoparticles in Wuhan before the military games. So what I'm saying is that's the flip side of the coin. The flip side of the coin of super soldier is also the bioweapon. See what I mean?
It's the sword shield problem.
Sword shield. And
Yeah.
Sarah Struck works on heme deformities. She's a PhD in heme deformities. Now, I'm sure it could be just a total coincidence.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As George used to say at the University of Miami of Ohio Business School, you get the cork board out, and if there's 8 colors of yarn going between the same 2 pins, then you make a note of it.
Devin Struck was working down near the University of Texas Medical Branch, right? If you wanted to get stuff in and out of the University of Texas Medical Branch on Galveston Island, you might want to talk to Devin Struck. And his wife was a Navy nurse. So again, I think we really have to go back, Addy, you and me, and go through all of these books in a rewrite and look at all the evidence again. Look at all the evidence again and update it and cross-reference it again. Because I think we're on a gold mine. We just don't know it yet.
Yeah. I will try to. I'll see what I can do about this weekend, Jordan, because I do want to see you in Pasta. And we'll see what happens there. But I think she might be based in Minneapolis, Miss Sarah E. Struck.
Well, that's where Peter Struck's from. Just saying.
Oh, really? Okay. Because I know his dad's from Gilman, Wisconsin, which is a very small town, kind of by Eau Claire.
But I believe he lives in North Carolina now.
I think now he does. Yeah, Pinehurst. Yeah.
Pinehurst.
Yep.
But I'm just saying that I understand there's a Struck family. They all went to St. John's and everything, and there's an old family name there. So it could be she's not related. But we had Strucks in Oshkosh, defense contractor Strucks in Oshkosh Super Humvees. I interviewed the Navy gal who was buying those for the Commandant of the Marine Corps, where the doors were falling off. Struck was.
They have lots of air shows there in Oshkosh.
Oh, really?
Oh no, they have a global fly-in every year. It's the biggest air show in the world. Private airplanes. Everybody.
Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah.
Oshkosh. They have their own YouTube channel.
Oh, very nice.
These folks had these midnight meetings at the National Security Council Situation Room at the White House. That's what the guy who was a Coast Guard and the gal who was a Navy nurse were meeting late at night at the White House. For whatever reason, I don't know, but that's a little close to Peter Struck. It's not like, well, I'm just over here doing heme deformities. She could be. But again, we need to look at all that evidence again. I remember Devin Struck there was another Struck that was Navy intel in the 7th Fleet where Harry Harris was with all of his fun. So who has a background in bioagents. So we just need to look at everything again. Now that Strzok has opened the can of worms here with this raid, he wouldn't have done that unless he was looking for the what Trump might have had on him. And I think it's great metadata to say, hey, this stuff that we thought was maybe, great but not fantastic, now we know it's fantastic. That makes me feel good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love these Wisconsin connections here, guys. I gotta say.
How about the University of Wisconsin in Kawa-Oka?
FluGen, hiding in plain sight. I've driven past that installation so many times. It's very nondescript looking. Oh, nice. Looks like Peter's got a store there. So
Yeah, this is the number one design. This is the number one seller on the Duke Report store. You are here because this is where we are.
Yeah.
And so you could show your Vax pride. You can show your Vax pride by wearing this shirt.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
There was some kind of we'll go woo-woo here in the last two minutes. There was some other woo-woo topic we were going to talk about, Peter, but I don't remember.
Yes, I do remember what the woo-woo topic was. We were going to talk about the Knights of Malta.
Oh, yeah, the Pope just changed something with them, didn't he?
The Pope just did a major, it's like a manager in a baseball team. He got rid of one, or a hockey team. He got rid of one line and he put in another line. What do you think is going on there, George?
Well, it's funny you mentioned Peter Strzok, and Pete Buttigieg also may have some claims. But the big juice of being a Knight of Malta is you had to have a claim to royalty. Peter Strzok feels like he's like Zbigniew Brzezinski feels like he has a claim to royalty. So does Klaus Schwab. So does Buttigieg through Malta, through the actual island of Malta. And that's how you get in the club. Well, if you put a bunch of these military guys who can launder money through the Vatican Bank for overthrowing things like Libya, Syria, Sudan, Yemen, blah, 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 the Pope's going to get tired of it after a while. It's like, you know what? We had Pius X, Pius XI, Pius XII. They all did the money laundering for fascism. I really don't want to be that guy, for you guys in the 21st century. I think that's what he was saying. Buttigieg had a brother at Notre Dame. I think there's an underbelly here as far as the military is concerned with this Knight of Malta thing.
Well, aren't the Knights of Malta sovereign? Like they're sovereign, like the Vatican Bank is sovereign from the Vatican, and the Knights of Malta are sovereign. CERN is sovereign. The Bank of International Settlements is sovereign. The United Nations in New York is sovereign. Meaning they're beholding to no government on that chunk of land. And I think the Knights of Malta is basically an office at the Vatican. I don't think that they have a huge facility there or anything, but they maintain their sovereign status in Vatican City, I believe.
Yeah, I went to the UN. We tried to go into the headquarters there in New York, and we got denied. But I was with Kriston T. Harris of the Rundown Live. We took pictures and video of the statue of a chimera, evil-looking chimera, and it was removed a couple days later after we broadcast.
Did it look like Hillary Clinton in that dress?
A little bit, yeah, but it was like a four-legged, winged, panther-esque creature. Some sort of chimera, mythical beast.
Well, I hate to get historical on you guys, but you guys remember the siege of Malta. And
bioweapons, right?
Yes.
Weren't they chucking over like blankets
cows?
or something? It was like dirty. Oh, was it cows? Okay.
I think rats, just about anything they could throw. But they lost twice in sieges, but one in Turkey. I can't remember the first siege, and then there was another one they lost at Constantinople, and they also got pushed out of Jerusalem. Let's not forget that. They got pushed back to Rhodes. I think I've heard a name Rhodes before, with some metals and some diamonds. But anyway, they got pushed back to Cyprus, and they got pushed off Cyprus to Malta. So this is their last stand. The Pope's saying, hey, you're on the other side of Italy now, and you still need help. They were always appealing for help from the Pope, right? So they won on the last day of the Siege of Malta. It lasted, I think, over a couple of months with the Ottomans trying to take over the thing. The last island was St. Elmo's Island. And the way they won was intimidating the Ottoman ships with something called Greek fire. This is this fire that when they would shove the torpedo at the ship, it would burn the ship. And that was St. Elmo's fire. And that is how they think it could have been a bioagent. But I'm saying that they would be for however many battles they fought if it wasn't for bioagents. Right? They finally won with bioagents. Wouldn't you invest the rest of your military technology in bioagents if that was the only way you could win? That explains Pete Buttigieg's relative, writing the history of the sovereign military order of Malta. McChrystal, they say, is a Knight of Malta. Flynn was thinking about becoming a Knight of Malta. Right? You get a passport. You get a black passport. I interviewed a guy who's an Army general who was doing the twin helicopter thing, not the Hueys, but the big one,
The Osprey.
The Chinooks. This is way back in Vietnam. He did a race that was Chinook versus Huey. He had a black passport from Knight of Malta, meaning he's got diplomatic immunity. So if show me all the black passport holders. I
want one of those.
Yeah, it's like that's like a Mossad black card, man.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's a good deal.
Wow.
So anyway, that's my woo-woo. That's woo-woo. High speculation alert, Peter. We should put that on there.
Woo-woo? Okay.
Well, high octane speculation.
High octane okay. I think it's a little late. But you were just talking about somebody who wrote a book.
Yes, I was.
Yes,
yeah.
you weren't. I don't think that you made an accusation beyond the fact that they wrote a book.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
It was a good book too. But that was my woo-woo for the thing. But Peter Strzok, we did his lineage back to Poland, and there was some kind of dispensation for the Pope to the Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox folks that fell in those regions. And it was sort of like Vatican satellite. And Strzok connects himself mentally, instead of Zbigniew Brzezinski, back to that, hey, I'm royalty, I should be in this club. Interesting psychological study in Peter Strzok.
Yep. Well, to me, I mean, the red flags always go up for me when I see sovereign entities. Like it seems like nations are for suckers. Like if you're part of the global elite, like you've got some kind of a connection to some kind of sovereign entity because it lets you get around the law, because the law is for suckers. And so, yeah, I'm always the fact that you can have an office at the Vatican and you can give people passports and a sword, and that allows them to kind of do whatever they want. It's a get out of jail free card, I suppose.
Paul Whelan, the arrested spy in Moscow, gave away a huge sword, the old Maltese sword, and that was there for Kelly services for typing and filing. You need a sword, and he was recruiting people for the Moscow embassy.
It was the mercenary division of Kelly Services.
Yeah. Yeah. And a Flynn won the sword one year. I'm thinking this thing is 6-7 feet long. You can't even pick it up.
Flynn won the sword from Paul Whelan?
Yes, a Flynn.
A Flynn.
A Flynn. Not Mike Flynn, but Flynn did win. And Dave Underdown took me to the Kelly Services headquarters there. We had a good laugh because it seemed like 10% of Kelly Services really was this diplomatic services for recruiting these diplomatic security services people that were not involved in filing and typing.
Right.
That did something else.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to give a final shout out to Dave Underdown, who found a connection between the CIA and one Jeff DeSantis, handler for one Fonnie Willis, Fulton County District Attorney, by way of one Michelle Nunn, who I think he was working as her campaign manager at one time. So great job there, Dave. You impressed both George and I.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about Sam Nunn, I'm just going to pile on Dave's great research, is that they did Nunn-Lugar. And Nunn-Lugar is all about taking the old bios and nukes from the Soviet Union and redeploying them. And sometimes they don't always get back to Piketon, Ohio, do they? And hey, It's like getting a fully charged, it's like getting a car full of gasoline, right? When you get a nuclear, 95% nuclear rod, you might, before you take it back to the thing, you might want to run it down to near empty. Then still you bring it back to the car. That's what happened in Piketon. We had a 10-year delay in bringing those weapons, those Soviet weapons, home, megatons to megawatts. And then they return them when they're depleted, almost completely run down to South Carolina. So that was another story we did. So we need to look at all these, because all this struck stuff, to me, this, like you said, red lights, when you sovereign stuff. Of course, we had the Chads and the CHOP in Seattle, and we had another Chads and CHOP in Minneapolis. Plus, we had George Floyd, who was a gun runner. I love George Floyd. I love all the artwork. But he was a gun runner and a counterfeiter, and he was, he had robbed some people and beat his wife and all this. He had a lot of rap sheet, right? You wonder if the whole George Floyd thing was to cover the Peter Strzok gun running. I love him to death. I love the George Floyd stuff, but that's why I wrote the book, Blackberries Matter.
George Floyd could have been your brother.
I think he may have been in another life from another mother.
Right, could have been your brother. Anyway, well, with that, I'm going to say goodbye, folks. But before I say goodbye, George, do this. There you go. And then I'll do this. And then Addy, you do that. Down. There you go. Because if you see the links down there, if you want to see the links down there, somebody can screenshot us looking crazy like that. And, call us grifters or whatever you want to do. But that's a meme. I'm just throwing it out there if there's any bots or any signature reduction people out there. Of course, you'll be identifying yourself as a signature reduction person, and producer Carrie will take note. But anyway, thanks, everybody. Thanks for all the coffees. Thanks for all your support. And George, it's Tuesday. We'll see you again on Thursday.
Yes.
And then also on Friday, same time, same bat channel, on Michael Parker's radio show, right? TNT Radio.
We did that yesterday. It was so much fun. I haven't done radio in a long time. And I said, oh my gosh, this is my medium. So this is good stuff.
It's good. Yeah, folks, on Friday, if you listen to George and me on Michael Parker's show, it's great because when there's commercial breaks, George compresses, synthesizes, and he just puts things out in really tight packages. It's fantastic.
Well, let's do more radio.
All right. Exactly.
All right,
I do have a clock on my computer now that I run all the time to try to be aware of how much time we're taking. So
hey everybody, I hear Dr. Hamamoto's going live. If you want to continue this great discussion, go over and see him. Please tell him we sent you all and send our love and respect and wishes, best wishes, and we'll see you all there. That's where I'm heading.
George is speaking for himself there.
Yeah. We all love him. We all.
I would recommend you go to my Rockfin. You check out what's going on in elections. If you want to learn about cyber sexual buggery, go somewhere else.
There you go. We had to get one in.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all later.
All right. Thanks, Ed.
Mind.
Thanks, Peter.